Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome back into Gamecock Central. My name is Kendall Smith, joined alongside of Collyn Taylor, and it is officially 2023. I hope that you all had a great New Year's Day, a great New Year's Eve, a wonderful holiday season. Overall, it was certainly a busy one for South Carolina in many different ways. Just finished up from the 2022 Gator Bowl, and Collyn, no stopping. It's all gas, no brakes, because we are headed straight into basketball talk today. We're talking the South Carolina men's basketball team. They open up conference play tomorrow in Nashville, playing against Vanderbilt. Just finished up non-conference, but first and foremost, Collyn, how you doing? How was your new year? And did you manage to get any rest before you head into this long basketball season that kind of stems into baseball season as well?
Yeah, you know as well as I do that I did get a little bit more rest than probably I needed to today. Yeah, I got a little bit, had some semi downtime on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and ready to kind of kick this thing off and just power through what's going to be a very, very busy, probably 3 to 4 months with hoops finishing up and baseball cranking up and all that fun stuff. And spring football to probably tack in there too.
It's never a dull moment in the world of South Carolina sports. And the Gamecock men's basketball team, they finished off 2022 very strong, winning 2 of their last 4 games, 2 in a row, actually, at the end of the year. And they're heading into conference play starting tomorrow against Vanderbilt, that game at 7 Eastern, 6 Central time. But Collyn, I want to kind of start this off just talking about the team in general. They've had some really good moments this year, and they've had some not so good moments this year. But as someone who's been at basically every game, what are your impressions of South Carolina's team to this point in the season?
They are, yeah. They kind of are what we thought they would be. A team that when it gets good play from its 3 or 4 best guys, tends to play pretty well, tends to play efficient basketball, tends to compete with whoever they are with on the court. And that's obviously GG Jackson, Meechie Johnson, Hayden Brown. When they don't, it's a struggle. It's a team that's going through growing pains because you look at every guy on the roster, it's someone that has been put into a role that they haven't really played a whole lot of over their career. Meechie Johnson's back to playing point guard after playing off the ball at Ohio State. Jacoby Wright's being asked to play a lot of point guard at a bigger volume than he was last year. Chico Carter's playing a bigger role than he did last year. Gigi's obviously in his first year of college basketball. Hayden Brown is moving from the front court to playing more on the wing. You're asking, and then everyone else is either a freshman or just not really in the rotation. So there's going to be growing pains, and you've seen it. You've seen the frustration at times from the coaching staff about competitiveness and aggression, and then that comes with learning the system. That comes with these are guys that really haven't impacted winning or won at a high level over their careers, and they have to grow into that. So I think you're seeing those growing pains. You've certainly seen some good coming back and beating Georgetown, beating Clemson at home. Western Michigan is not a bad basketball team, one of the better mid-major teams, more talented mid-major teams in the country. And you beat them and you were up double digits for a lot of that second half. So there are positives, but certainly the SEC is going to be a tougher test. And South Carolina's got a long way still to go from a growth standpoint to be able to win more than they lose in league play.
And you're absolutely right. The SEC is a different animal. When you get into conference play, it requires a lot more consistency out of every single team. And you talk about the growing pains there. I mean, South Carolina has an 18-year-old, just turned 18-year-old, who is leading this team in GG Jackson, Collyn. But as they head into SEC play, what are some of those things that they need to adjust and they need to get better at to be competitive on a game-to-game standpoint?
I mean, they just need to be more consistent shooting the ball from an offensive standpoint, and then defensively just continue to, from an offensive standpoint, be more efficient. And from a defensive standpoint, you got to be better about just defending as a team. Offensively, they ranked 250th in the country in adjusted offensive efficiency, which is obviously not good. Well below average, 4 points per 100 possessions below average, because they don't shoot the three incredibly well. They don't get to the free throw line. When they do get to the free throw line, they're one of the worst teams in the country in shooting free throws. To be an efficient offense, you have to make the shots, more shots than, you have to make a lot of shots. It's early. You have to get to the free throw line and make your free throws. And then defensively, I mean, I'm looking at it now. They don't force a lot of turnovers to get into, open court looks, easy looks at the rim. Teams are shooting from an effective field goal percentage over 52%. Teams are getting to the free throw line quite frequently, but they just need to be more efficient on both ends of the floor. And when you do that, you have a chance against the Tennessees, the Kentuckys, the Auburns, the Alabamas of the world. And when you don't, you have some chances of games to get sideways on you.
South Carolina opens up home conference play on Saturday against Tennessee, the number 7 ranked team in the country. So certainly not starting off easy as they begin conference play, but a player, as I already mentioned, that they are going to be relying on heavily is freshman GG Jackson. He came into the season with a ton of hype surrounding him, Collyn. So what do you think of GG's play so far throughout this season?
I think he's lived up to the hype. I mean, you talk about a guy that's averaging double figures. You knew the scoring was going to be there. I mean, he's up to 17.2 points per game. He's shooting 42% from the field, over 37% from free. His efficiency is 18.5. I mean, that's really stuff for guys who's couldn't buy lottery tickets 4 weeks ago. That's really good. What I think is impressive the most is he's getting better about defending down low. And he's rebounding the ball better. 16 rebounds against Western Kentucky, 9 against Eastern Michigan. When you do that and you can push him transition and get him going, that really helps this offense because he can get it and those guards don't have to worry about getting into the paint to get the ball and go. He can bring it up the floor and then you're able to do a little bit more. So he's certainly lived up to the billing, I think. He's still probably going to have some freshman moments. Again, the SEC's vastly, vastly different conference than what you've been playing. But I think he's done really, really well for someone who's, was just in high school, 4 or 5 months ago.
We talk about GG, and he's kind of an obvious name when you mention the South Carolina basketball team. But Collyn, has there been anybody on this team that has really stood out to you so far this season that maybe we weren't talking about a ton during the preseason?
I think Chico Carter's been kind of what they advertised. He's not going to be the most insane volume scorer that you have, but when he fills his role, he does it really well. He's top 25 in the country in 3-point percentage, shooting almost 51% from 3. One of the best shooters really in the country, doesn't commit many fouls, has a really good offensive rating. And he's had some games where you look at it and say, okay, that's where it is. And when he can play that role opposite Michi Johnson, opposite Gigi, opposite Hayden, that offense tends to get uplifted a little bit because of that. And he's been, you kind of always knew Chico had that in him. Needs to cut down on the turnovers a little bit, but he's been really solid for South Carolina this year, more so than I maybe thought he would be when things tipped off in November.
Well, South Carolina is going to need all hands on deck as they head into the meat of their schedule. Collyn, last question for you here on this edition of Talking Men's Basketball, but what are some realistic expectations for this team as they head into conference play and then finish out the season?
Yeah, so I'll preface this. KenPom, which is the big analytical site for basketball, does not have South Carolina projected to win any of its 18 SEC men's basketball games. KenPom projects it officially at 3-15 with some upsets obviously mixed in there. So prepare yourself for a lot of growing pains. Prepare yourself for some losses. This is a really good SEC and a South Carolina team still trying to find itself. So fans, understand what you're about to experience, please. I'm not saying it's going to be 0-18. I'm not saying it's going to be 3-15, but I'm saying there will be some growing pains. And if you're South Carolina, you need to just improve. You need to look better on Saturday, March 4th against Georgia than you did Tuesday, January 3rd against Vanderbilt. And you need to see some of that growth. You need to be competitive at times against the Tennessees, which is number 3 in Ken Palm. Alabama, who's number 9, Kentucky, who's 14, Auburn, who's 17. You need to look good at times against those programs. Look like you're competitive. Look like you can schematically compete with some of these big boys, some of these national title contenders in the conference. And if you do, I think that's a solid foundation for year one. And then we know how big the portal is going to be for South Carolina this offseason. And hopefully that, whatever that looks like, parlays itself into a quality portal class for South Carolina to take that jump from what they were this year, what they're going to be this year, into contending to be in the middle of the pack or maybe for a tournament berth in year 2 and then on into year 3.
Lots and lots of games coming up for South Carolina. They just finished up non-conference, so they're really getting into what I said is the meat of the schedule. And Collyn, you'll be there for it all, covering all of it. So exciting. And then, of course, heading into baseball and then spring football. So just when you think things maybe slow down a little bit when football season ends, you realize it really doesn't, because crossover season is a very challenging time in the world of sports journalists. So Venmo Collyn some money for a coffee, send him some prayers over Twitter, whatever you want to do, all the good vibes. Collyn certainly needs it, but he does a great job. He doesn't complain. So give him a shout out, give him some love in the comments and on the forum. We are grateful for all that you do, Collyn, and we are looking forward to reading all of your coverage. I'll probably pop in from time to time too with some men's basketball stuff. I love baseball, so definitely we'll be doing baseball as well. But we have all of it on GamecockCentral.com for you. So be sure to check us out. Also follow us on all of our social medias at Gamecock Central. Collyn, I hope that you have somewhat of a restful week. I know it will be hard, but thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate that, Kendall. And yeah, we're going to hang this up. I'm going to go probably funnel a little bit of coffee down my throat for the rest of the day. So
there you go.
Yeah.
New Year, same you. New Year, same Collyn Taylor. Happy New Year to all of you watching this. Thanks so much for tuning in. He's Collyn Taylor. I'm Kendall Smith, talking men's basketball here on Gamecock Central. We'll have plenty more for you soon, and have a great rest of your day, everybody.